for your chance to win a 96.7 The Eagle.
From HometownNewsNow.com, this is Update News on 96.7 The Eagle. Welcome to Sound Off on 96.7 The Eagle, LaPorte County's original social media. Sound Off is a public interest forum that encourages your voice to be heard on the topics and issues impacting our local communities. For the next 30 minutes, we invite you to be part of the conversation by calling 219-362-0522. And you can now text your questions to the Liquor Vault on-air line or by email to soundoff@967theeagle.com. This is a topic-based program, and we ask that you keep your comments brief, concise, and related to the topic being discussed. The views expressed on Sound Off are those of the hosts or callers and do not represent the opinion of 96.7 The Eagle, Spoon River Media LLC, or the sponsors. The Liquor Vault on-air line is now open for your calls or texts at 219-362-0522. This is Sound Off on 96.7 The Eagle.
Hello, friends. Today is Friday, October 22nd, and this is Sound Off. My name is Nate Laux, and I'll be your host as we have a community conversation with LaPorte County Prosecuting Attorney John Lake. Now, if you have a question for Prosecuting Attorney John Lake, call or text the Liquor Vault on-air line at 219-362-0522 or email me at soundoff@967theeagle.com. But first, it's time for On This Day in History. It was on this day in 1962. My mother would have been only 2 years old. Then President John F. Kennedy gave a televised speech announcing that U.S. spy planes have discovered Soviet missile bases in Cuba. These missile sites under construction but nearing completion housed medium-range missiles capable of striking several major cities in the United States, especially including Washington, D.C., the center of our government. President Kennedy, knowing the gravity of the situation, looked into the television camera and said this to the American people. He said, "My fellow citizens, let no one doubt that this is a complex and dangerous effort on which we have set out. No one can see precisely what course it will take or what costs or casualties will be incurred. Many months of sacrifice and self-discipline lie ahead, months in which our patience and our will be tested. Months in which many threats and denunciations will keep us aware of our dangers. But the greatest threat of all will be to do nothing." America's response to the Russians and Cubans was to quarantine all offensive military equipment under shipment to Cuba, increase the degree of surveillance, regard a possible attack launched from Cuba as a Soviet attack, reinforce the Guantanamo Bay Naval Base, call for a meeting of the organ of consultation, call for an emergency meeting of the United Nations Security Council, and demand that Russian Premier Nikita Khrushchev cease his current course of action. It was just a little less than a week later on Saturday, October 27th. After much deliberation between the Soviet Union and Kennedy's cabinet, Kennedy secretly agreed to remove all missiles set in Turkey and possibly southern Italy, the former on the border of the Soviet Union, in exchange for Khrushchev removing all missiles in Cuba. While the crisis was over, the mistrust between Russia and the United States was still evident and would continue for many years to come, fueling the Cold War and some of the conflict we're still in today. And this is today's On This Day in History. Today we have Prosecuting Attorney John Lake on the show. So glad to have you with us listening and contributing. If you have a question for John Lake, call or text the Liquor Vault on air line at 219-362-0522 or email me at soundoff@967theeagle.com. John, how are you?
I'm doing great.
How was your week?
It was a good week.
All right, let's get into the thick of things. We got a lot of topics. I'm sure our callers have things that they're going to want to talk about, but on the minds of many people, there are a few issues going on locally that I'm sure, again, people are going to want to talk about. First, I know there's some things you can't say, but can you give an update on the Judah Morgan case? It has shocked, offended, and hurt so many local residents. You know, I know your office has decided to charge multiple charges to the parents. Where's your office at on this, and how did you make sense of all of this?
Well, I mean, it's very, very disturbing when you have a 4-year-old who dies at the hands of his father, but that the abuse had gone on for quite a while. So, I mean, obviously we have pending charges. I can't really get into talking about the case. Other than that, we have pending charges that we filed against the father for murder, and are asking for a life sentence without parole. That's called the LWOP. And then we've also charged his mother as well. And the investigation's ongoing. The first thing that you look at as a prosecutor in an investigation is, how does this happen? And so, we're reviewing, and it's an ongoing investigation, because we're trying to figure out how does a child who's not been in the home for 4 years get put back in the home, and 2 months later having the termination of that oversight happen without some sort of, there has to be some something more to it. I think that, so we're looking into that issue.
These questions aren't foreign to you or your office right now either.
No, I mean, you see it across, as the head of the child fatality review team, we have to review every child death under 18, and so obviously this is one. We have fatalities, and one of the things we've been focusing on is sudden infant death syndrome, where people, they used to call it crib death or SIDS, and that's something we've been working on very hard to get the message out about how to properly place a baby, and so that they sleep safely, and knock on wood, we have not had a safe sleep death in our county in the last year, going through last November, I think was the last one we had. So it's been 11 months that we've been working on that message as part of that committee. DCS deals with the children in the home. My APS units deals with people over 18, special needs or adults, endangered people. So DCS gets so much more money than APS. I every time I see a legislator, I get on them. I'm like, they get $600 million. We get $5 million for the entire state. It's versus $6 million. So it's like, we need more money to do what we know, because you get people from our end of financial exploitation, and people lose their life savings, and so there's been a whole thing we've talked about previously. But the first sense is the horrific tragedy when something like this happens, and we're becoming more and more mindful of the trauma that causes, not only to first responders, people that actually have to go and respond, but the prosecutors, my staff, of dealing with these issues and looking at these pictures and having to review stuff. It's kind of something that I think, because of the remote working and the ongoing thing, it's become more and more, we're becoming more trauma informed through our investigations and just how we handle it and deal with that, because you kind of get to the point where you get burnout and desensitized to it a little bit, and also just to the point, like, all right, is what I'm doing even working, or is it helping? So take me through a little bit of what you think. I'd love to get your opinion on this. Obviously, this is just your opinion, John Lake, as a citizen and as somebody that's informed by this. But last episode, we talked about Indiana having the highest amount of deaths for children from abuse and neglect out of any state in the union. We're talking about why this might be, these kind of things. From where you sit, what would you... Policy is a big deal, right? What would you maybe suggest that legislators look into on some of those things, or maybe change the system to help some of those things? Well, and some of those arguments I've had, and with just the push that DCS is to always, and I understand, to try and keep families together, but there's a point where if you have an abusive relationship, you have to get that person out of that relationship, and a child cannot choose. And so DCS is the entity that we've slated in Indiana with overseeing that. And there's a hotline, and if you are required, if you notice child abuse, that there's a statute that you have to report it. And that's the disturbing thing, is that a lot of people don't want to get involved. And I always tell them, listen, call. Because the worst thing is you do nothing and something happens to that child that's adverse. And if it's everything's okay, there should be no one that should be offended where someone's coming to check on your children to make sure that they're okay. A lot of people do. There's a lot of conspiracy theorists out there. There's a lot of anti-government. There's a lot of anti-criminal justice system, anti-judges, anti-prosecutors, anti-police talk. But at the end of the day, you need that criminal justice system to do the right thing. And I know that, we have adverse results. People break. And I think that's where we're starting to look at the trauma on people and why does a person who otherwise was maybe a good police officer, a good person, how did they snap, And I think that's where we have to look in. The mental health is a huge problem in America. And that's something that, I'm very proud of, that Mary has worked with Circuit Court to create.
Real quick, Mary, your wife.
Mary. Yeah.
And your number two, really. I mean, you guys are partners in so many ways.
Yeah. She's not my chief deputy.
Yeah,
that's back then. But she is my confidant, whatever you want to call her.
I would argue your better half.
She is.
Yeah.
Much better. She is. Yeah. On so many ways, because I have one way of dealing with stuff. I'm blunt. Mary is more diplomatic.
But she's doing some work on this.
Well, yeah, she works. She does the juvenile side of things. And so what they created was a family recovery court. Our office is not involved in that. Mary's not involved in family recovery court. That's with CHINS. We don't do CHINS. That's the DCS. That's CHINS is Children in Need of Services. And their whole focus, and I don't think it's such a bad idea, but you got to pick and choose, is always trying to get the child back in with the parents. But sometimes those parents are not capable of doing it, and I think sometimes they err too much on the side of trying to reunite, maybe, and that would lend to that statistic, because that's the only thing you can think of. If they're getting them out, and then 6 months later, sometimes addicts don't change, and they clean up for a while. But where I look at is, if you're going to reunite them, where's the oversight after that? Where are the spot checks? Where are those things? And how are you going to do that? I think that's, if they want to focus on making this better and doing the right thing, just as a citizen, I think you should have more of the follow-up, more spot checking, because people are good to put on an act. But if you just show up and say, hey, how are things going? You're going to see a different nature of how things are going in the home. And I think one of the biggest problems we've had is that, obviously not being in school last year with the pandemic, much of this reporting for child abuse happens in the schools. Because children come in, either they're disclosing to their friends saying, hey, Sally has a bruise, and she's talking about her dad hit her, or whatever. Those type of things are getting disclosed to counselors or teachers, or the SROs, your school resource officers. So there's a lot of things at play, and I'm not familiar with the statistic of us being the most abused, but I'm like, I can see why, if they're trying to do it, if they're trying to do a good thing, but sometimes it may be too soon, because we might have criminal charges still pending, and we have had that where we're butting up against each other, where they want to reunite, and we're like, no, we still have a criminal charge against this person. And so how do you deal with that? So, and there's a work in progress. We have an MDT, which is a multi-dimensional team that we deal with DCS and our office and our CAC Dunebrook, that deals with all of the abuse and those type of things. So there's no right answer, but what's mixed in with it is things that we deal with, which is mental health issues. And I was talking about that with Mary, is that we have the only juvenile wellness court, which is basically a mental health court here in Indiana. And it was started with our participation, and that's what Mary does. She works on that, which is basically, and we had our first graduate last week, which is great to see somebody who was going down the wrong path and becoming would have been considered to be maybe a juvenile at risk of going into a life of crime, or being systemized, or something. And 7 months later, now a straight A student, and is on the path to, now can cope with the aggression that she was feeling, or however that issue was. And so it's a really great thing. I'm hoping that we can move that forward to mental health court, because we have a lot of people that are in the criminal justice system that we don't know what to do with, and we really need to adopt that for adults.
We've got John Lake on the show today. Thank you so much for listening. We've got some callers we're going to get to in a second, but we got to take our first commercial break. If you have a question for the prosecuting attorney, you're welcome to call us at 219-362-0522. Email us soundoff@967theeagle.com, or again, you can text us as well at 219-362-0522. We're going to take a real quick break and get back to your callers. Thank you so much for waiting. Keep it right here on 96.7 The Eagle.
Tire sale on now at both Cannon's locations. Brands like Michelin, Hankook, Hercules, and Cooper. Rebates of up to $160. Free alignment inspection, and schedule your fall tune-up, oil change, tire rotation, brake inspection, and winter-ready inspection, all for $56.02. Don't wait weeks for auto repairs. Same-day appointments available. See the experts at Cannon Automotive. Two great locations, 710 Tyler and 909 Boyd Boulevard. Go further with Cannon's Automotive.
Thinking about getting a small storage yard shed, a large riding arena, or maybe something in between? Milmar Buildings in LaPorte is your source for all your storage solutions. Let Milmar Buildings help you design and build your next project. They can guide you through the process every step of the way. Conveniently located 7 miles west from LaPorte on Highway 2. Stop in for your quote today at 7657 State Road 2. Call 785-0145 or visit milmarbuildings.com and get inspired.
When it comes to you and your family going out to eat, choosing a place that everyone can agree on can sometimes be difficult. At Archie's Restaurant, they're sure to please everyone's appetite. They offer a variety of quality food for everyone to enjoy. Breakfast and lunch is served any time of the day, and Archie's is open 24 hours Friday and Saturday for those of you who still can stay out all night. Archie's. They're located on the corner of Lincoln Way and Scott Street on the east side of LaPorte.
The Gold Clipper Pet Salon and Resort, located at 112 J Street in LaPorte, is considered one of the best grooming salons in LaPorte. The Gold Clipper, open since 1985, offers a variety of services to ensure your pet has a pleasant experience in a stress-free environment. The Gold Clipper also offers daycare and boarding for your precious best friend. Stop in and check out their selection of solid gold dog and cat food, as well as an assortment of treats. For more info, call them at 219-324-5000 or go to their website, www.goldclipper.com.
Dutch Boy Platinum Plus. It's only paint. It's only paint that comes in a twist and pour container. It's only paint that will transform your den with just one coat of salted lavender into a writer's sanctuary. It's only paint that will help you become TV's hottest writer, where you'll meet this guy.
Hey.
Who starred in that thing.
Now that's a twist I didn't see coming.
Dutch Boy. It's only paint. Only easy opening, smooth pouring, change your life paint. Only at Menards. Get 11% off everything, including Dutch Boy paint.
It's time for LaPorte County's second favorite game show, Keep It or Chuck It. Today we have the Smiths with a classic treadmill from 1979. It's been collecting dust in their basement for 42 years. Keep it or chuck it.
I'm gonna work out. We can't get rid of it.
You have been gonna work out for 42 years. Chuck it.
When it's time to get that old heavy crap out of your house, call Chuck It. 219-707-9117 or visit them online at chuckitlp.com.
Your forecast on 96.7 The Eagle, brought to you by Harmon Expert Auto Service. If you're looking for a local and quality auto repair company, then look no further than Harmon Expert Auto, with 2 locations in LaPorte, 308 Washington or 111 Brighton Streets. Visit their website at harmonexpertautoservice.com or call 325-0444.
Michiana weather.
Cloudy this afternoon with a chance for scattered showers. High of 52, winds out of the west, 5 to 10 miles per hour. Tonight, lows around 41. 56 tomorrow, mainly clear. From the Weather Center at HometownNewsNow.com. Right now, 48.
We're waiting to hear from you. Dial or text 362-0522 and let us know what you think. That's 362-0522. Back to Sound Off on 96.7 The Eagle.
Welcome back, friends. Glad to have you listening on Sound Off today. It's the second segment, so we're going to open up the phone lines now. If you've got a question for prosecuting attorney John Lake, give me a call, 219-362-0522, or shoot me a text, and I'd be happy to ask him. Let's get to our first caller. Welcome to the show. Thank you so much for waiting. What's your question for John Lake?
Thank thank you for coming on the air today, Mr. Lake, to answer questions. My question, well, first, I think you've done an outstanding job. You're probably one of the best prosecutors you had going back to probably Bob Shalaky that I can remember. My question today, according to the news, Mr. Haney sent you a private email. I'm guessing it was private or confidential, and then you took it upon yourself to forward it to Shaw Friedman. I just, what's the reasoning behind that? And it's getting hard enough to find candidates in this kind of support, and then things like that happen, which is why we voted for Joe Haney and Tim Stabos. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, will you please explain kind of maybe the broader situation that's going on here? Because I know, you got sucked into the whirlwind a little bit.
Right. That's actually not a correct statement that it was a private. He sent me a email from his governmental thing asking a question, which was a follow-up in response to an email I'd sent out regarding an inquiry, a claim that there was a criminal action, and I reviewed it, and we were going to ask for evidence on the case, and just reviewing what the basis of what they're saying the criminal action was. They had misinterpreted the statute and it didn't apply. So I had replied out to all of the commissioners and to Mr. Friedman and Mr. Guy DiMartino to let them know, and to the person that had sent it. Here's my position. This is why this is not a crime, and that this is not applicable. In response to that, Mr. Haney then responded to me, and I really wasn't paying attention that he had sent it to me alone, because he had just asked some questions, but that really wasn't that important. It was also just asking about, in this situation, would this be fraud or misappropriation? I responded to him with more in-depth case law. I had responded to the first, inquiries regarding based on the statutory law, and I responded to Mr. Haney, and in regard to that, in the ongoing time frame, that there were multiple emails that were sent, making more and more allegations towards me and to other Mr. Friedman and things of the nature that I didn't respond to all of them, but I thought it would be best that I had gone in and answered some of these other questions that were being posited by this the citizen, and that person I had responded to, and I thought that the email that I had sent to Mr. Haney responding to his inquiry of why that this is not fraud or misappropriation when a person, and it basically deals with the county attorney and the statutes, that when they're appointed, and the inference is that they can, unless there's a written contract setting out certain, different issues and limiting, they have really, the county attorney has unlimited scope to deal with any of the issues of the business, not just legal, because that's in court, but also the business interests of the county. Anything that touches upon it, that could be from streets, roads to government, oversight. It could be, the EPA thing they're talking about, or environmental issues, all different things. Businesses coming in, all that can be within the province of the county business. And so I had expounded on that with case law to Mr. Haney, and then in light of those emails that I had gotten subsequent to my response to all of them, I thought it was something that Mr. Friedman should have, that he could then know what I had also responded in response to this inquiry, that here's what my thought process was. And I assume that, the county attorney, I don't represent the commissioners, so I usually correspond with attorneys. So I sent it to him, assuming that he would share that with all of the commissioners. I have no problem providing those emails to anyone, because that's the thought process on it. So it wasn't something I shared confidences of Mr. Haney. He's a government official. He's sending me something on a government email. And so that's kind of my response.
So if I'm hearing this right, the implication is that you sent something to maybe the county attorney to give him a heads up or something? Is this what the implication is? I don't understand.
I don't really know what Mr. Haney's somebody told me about this, so I watched the meeting last night. I plan on being at the next commissioner meeting to address Mr. Haney directly, if the commissioner's president will allow me to do that, because I think He asked under what universe that a prosecutor would do this. This was not something where he was asking a question about the law, and I was responding about the law. There's not a specific allegation of fraud or misappropriation. It was just in general. And so I was responding that basically, unless there's a written contract or you can show specific instances of fraud or misappropriation, him just working and billing on things that deal with county business is not illegal. And, that's just what the law is. And so I think they're misinterpreting many statutes and truly trying to look for something that's not there.
We've got prosecuting attorney John Lake on the show. If you have a question for the prosecuting attorney, you're welcome to call us at 219-362-0522. That's the Liquor Vault on-air line. You can also text me, 219-362-0522, or give me an email at soundoff@967theeagle.com. Hey, I want to talk a little bit briefly, because, again, this is a headline kind of thing that we see a lot of people talking about it. So one of the things that is happening, obviously, is based on what the roles are, the constitutional roles of our county elected officials. So were you asked, is it within the purview of an auditor or the commission to decide who gets paid what? Or, do you have an opinion on that? Is that, something that the auditor can do?
Well, I can just tell you that I can respond from my position as elected prosecutor. I'm a state office. I'm not a county office. I don't come under the purview of the county. And so, we had an argument when I first started with the auditor then, and the payment of some bills that, and really what it comes down to is under the statute, if there's an executive that has authorized payment of a claim, that claim gets paid. And it's the province of the auditor just to show that, okay, we've got the proper paperwork here, this claim has been approved, now goes to the treasurer and gets paid. And so there have been some, I don't want to get into all the different issues or with the auditor, but there have been some bills that haven't been paid this year in a timely manner for my office, and I questioned that. I'm like, well, how can this be? How can we not have things being paid on time? With the issue of, you have to understand something. When you're starting to talk about, you're not talking about a department head, you're not talking about an employee. When they're talking about, Mr. Friedman as the county attorney, they're talking about an attorney. An attorney represents the client, and normally they're in the, as an attorney, I am, if I was representing you, I'd be telling you what you do, here's the issues, and this is what we're going to look at. You're not going to be telling me what to do, unless you want to have a written contract and say, we only want you to do litigation. And going back, there was a split sometimes in the county attorney work. You had people who just did commission work, you had people who just did litigation, like Mr. Jalegi and Mr. Friedman would split it and do different things. So there were tasks that were divided up, but you get into an issue of attorney-client privilege. There are cases that Mr. Friedman's representing people in my office, giving legal representation as county employees, because the deputy prosecutors are represented by the attorney general, but my employees, my staff, is represented. So there are times where he has to step in and represent them because I don't represent my staff, and so if they have issues or whatever, he represents them. And in that context, it becomes the province. He talks to my employees, and I don't get involved. And so that happens, on certain occasions. And he has the ability as an attorney. I'm not going to tell him what to do. But there is a give or take. And I always, there's a question, why didn't I contact, this department head or that? I'm an attorney. I deal with attorneys. I don't deal with their clients. It's unethical for me to go and start, but if somebody contacts me, I'm going to respond to them. And at that point, it gets where I think, like with Mr. Haney, I'm like, well, here's an email that I think Mr. Friedman should know about because it expounds on the law, and it deals not just with legal representation. It was dealing with all the interest, anything that is county business, and not just like business, economic business, but anything that would entail like environmental or whatever, streets, lights, doesn't matter. Within the county, he has a right, if it, and that it's, again, it comes down to the commissioners. They can hire whoever they want as county attorney. I really don't care who the county attorney is. Okay. Frankly, I believe that the county attorney right now gives good representation. That's just my personal opinion. I have nothing, and I think Mr. Haney is trying to look at tea leaves or something else when he starts trying to question my integrity. I have a problem with that, and I'm going to respond to him directly. And I think when he doesn't understand my province, I deal in the world of reality and truth and facts, and I have to protect the integrity of the criminal justice system as well. So if you start saying that we're doing something, there's something I did, that I shared something, this is not a situation where there's a specific allegation of crime. And guess what? When there is, sometimes we do contact the defendant to get a statement. This is something, if it's fraud, misappropriation, it's something that's going to be there no matter what happens. I'm not really worried about something disappearing, because if you have the checks and you have the bills and you can look into it, it's not something I'm worried about. So that wasn't, there was no referral of a criminal nature. I think that was referred to. There was not. It was a question about, would this be in the province? And basically my response is no. There's not going to be a fraud or misappropriation in this realm of anything he's billing for that deals with county business. Now, if he's dealing with something that he's talking about, which is a private client, and he's representing them and he's billing the county, that's a different thing. I'm like, bring forward something of that nature. But if you're dealing with that, and I think, there's this push, and there was this little flyer that I got, and I looked at that and I'm like, well, that's a violation of the law, because first of all, you can't send out a political message like that without being a registered PAC. There was no registration of Let's Go Brandon or whatever it was called. There is no PAC there, so that's actually a crime that my investigators are going to be looking into the aspect of who sent that and see if we can figure out who did, because it is a crime to do something of that nature. And so there are certain things that I look at is something a crime, is it not? And what are the facts? And sometimes things aren't a crime and they'll never become a crime. And so there's no, I think people should know that. So.
All right, so we've got prosecuting attorney John Lake on the show. If you've got a question, 219-362-0522. We're going to take our final break here of the show and get back to a couple more minutes of the show. Thank you so much for listening, and keep it here on 96.7 The Eagle.
Ben Conowitz here, LaPorte Seamless Gutter, 219-362-9972. Fall is here, and that means leaves and debris for your gutter system. We've got 3 separate types of gutter guard for your home. Leaves and debris come in all shapes and sizes. We don't need a one-size-fits-all for your gutter. Give us a call today for a free estimate at 219-362-9972, or you can visit us on the web, www.lpseamless.com.
Here's another job opportunity from HometownNewsNow.com.
LaPorte County government is hiring full-time and part-time positions, ranging from corrections, juvenile services, clerical, and janitorial. Full-time positions offer plenty of benefits and pay incentives. To apply for these positions and view job descriptions, go to laporteco.in.gov/employment or stop into Human Resources at 555 Michigan Avenue, Suite 101 in LaPorte.
This has been a Jobs Spotlight Extra. Look under Hot Topics at HometownNewsNow.com for job details.
Tired of fast food? Right now, if you're wanting to enjoy a home-cooked meal, real comfort food, then Renee's Cafe is what you've been looking for. Hours of operation may vary, so please call 369-6492. The dining room is closed for now, but carry-out and delivery are available. Join them on Fridays for their weekly fish fry, guaranteed to keep you coming out for more. Give Renee's Cafe a try, located in Kingsford Heights. They are also available for catering and private parties for any occasion. Phone 369-6492.
It's time to go. You hop into the car and think, I'll be there in just the nick of time. Then you hit the button to open your garage door and nothing happens. Don't panic. MC Doors same-day service is here for you. For over a quarter century, homeowners and businesses throughout Northwest Indiana and Southwest Michigan have trusted MC Doors, not only for the unpredictable emergency, but also to install the door that gives the right look and functionality. Reach out to local owners Jason and Kimberly Wood at MC Doors. That's mcdoors.com.
Join 96.7 The Eagle every Sunday morning at 8:30 a.m. for Calvary Baptist Church's Faith and Worship Sermons. You'll be enlightened with Pastor Tim Schreier's Words of God and music. Be sure to join us every Sunday morning at 8:30 a.m. for Calvary Baptist Church's Faith and Worship Sermons. If you like what you heard, be sure to join them at Calvary Baptist Church's location on Sunday morning at 10:30 a.m. and Wednesday evening at 6 o'clock for worship. Calvary Baptist Church is located on I Street here in LaPorte. Have an anniversary coming up? Enter the Tradio Anniversary Club. Every weekday at 9:30 a.m., we read all the anniversaries for the day, and every Friday, one lucky couple will receive a $20 gift certificate to Tony Floral and Gifts. To enter, go to 967theeagle.com and click the Submit tab and enter your information right there. Or write the couple's name, address, phone number, and anniversary date on a 3x5 card and mail it or drop it off here at the Radio Center, 1700 Lincoln Way Place, Suite 5. The Tradio Anniversary Club, every weekday at 9:30 a.m. on 96.7 The Eagle.
Your opinion matters. We invite you to share it by calling or texting the Liquor Vault on-air line at 362-0522. That's 362-0522. Now, back to Sound Off on 96.7 The Eagle.
Welcome back, friends. Just a couple of minutes left on today's show. Thank you so much for listening and be a part of the conversation. We've got John Lake on the show. Here's a text that came in. Why would the Let's Go Brandon mailer be a crime? It seems to be an opinion protected under free speech.
Well, because there are laws that cover political speech. So the first thing you have to determine is that advocating for or against a political thing. I'm reading it myself. I believe it is. You're advocating for the firing or the against the counselor or commissioner. So I think it's something that loosely is covering a political issue clearly. But secondly, under that, there are certain requirements where if you're sending something out and you're not sending it out, if it was sent out by, let's say, John Lake, this paid for by John Lake, there's nothing wrong. Paid for by Brandon, who's Brandon? And so Brandon is really kind of a catch. I didn't know what it was until somebody told me. And then if you're doing that as a political action committee, that's what this would be constitute. You have to actually file downstate as a political action committee or in the clerk's office if you're if you want to do sometimes of these mailers. So you do run afoul of the political and the statutes that deal with political campaigning and advocating for or against a political position.
So free speech is one thing, but not all political speech is free speech, correct?
Yeah, I mean, you can say whatever your opinion is, but when you mail it out to a million people, like if you post it up as a joke or a thing, that's one thing. But to actually spend the money and print these off and then send them out to everybody, I got one and I'm finding out that more people are talking about it. That's an avocation of a political position, and it's on behalf of one side versus the other. Ultimately, we may look at it and look at the law and say, hey, this doesn't constitute a political position. It's just advocating for a county, just having to create a county attorney. I don't know. I'm just saying when I got it and it says paid for by Brandon, that may be a joke or whatever, but then it comes to, well, wait a second, this could be political speech, and if it's political speech, who is Brandon? And we're running out of time.
All right. Well, thank you so much. Thank you again for being on the show. I appreciate you coming back on always and talking about what's happening in the community. I'll give you the final word, prosecutor. What do you want people to know?
Well, I just want people to know that transparency is very important to me in my office. And so when anyone will go out there and impugn me or my motives for doing something, I'm going to respond because I don't have those motives. I don't care about the politics. It doesn't matter to me who's on the commission, who's on the county attorney. We're always just trying to make sure that we're getting to the truth and we're charging people who are committing crimes and doing it the right way. And when there's not a crime involved and somebody asks me a question or sends it in, we're going to respond. And I think that adding that information out there to whoever, maybe I should have sent it to all the commissioners or whatever, but, I responded to Mr. Haney and I guess he hasn't shared it. I don't know.
All right. Well, thank you so much for being on the show. Again, thank you so much for listening. I want to thank Jeff Wugazer for producing and editing today's show.